Okay. So, thank you all for coming. And so, it seems like this was last minute, and it was. I came from New Jersey on Tuesday night, and then Wednesday I'm like, you know what? For my birthday, let's have a class. If not now, when, right? I keep on wanting to give a class on the law of attraction. This was a seminar that my teacher, Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg, actually gave here in LA in 2007. And I wind up giving every other topic, classes on every other topic besides the law of attraction. In just over a week, we're giving a class in Pico on telepathy. So hopefully everyone will come over there. I'll know one way or another whether you come. But tonight, this is it's actually, we're going to discuss one of the most fundamental and important topics today. Not necessarily as they explain it, as the people promoting this, as they explain it, but according to Jewish thought. And we're going to explain more at length. So first, again, let's say l'chaim. We should all have revealed brachos, revealed blessings in our lives. And we're going to go into depth in terms of what that means. So l'chaim. So, 2007, there was a book called The Secret, which came out in 2006, a movie and a book. And it was a big thing back then. So it took me, for a long time, I've wanted to put together a book based on this seminar. And I thought, no one's interested in the law of attraction anymore. This has passed, right? You know, it's who's reading The Secret anymore? But I heard from my wife and everyone else that, hold on, this is so prevalent. Maybe they don't necessarily say it always, where they're getting this from, but it's all based on these thoughts. That if you just ask for something, you can manifest it. Any life coach, any one of these, productivity retreats, and then change your life in an instant type places, they're all bringing themes that are rooted in this law of attraction. So as Rabbi Ginsburg discussed in the seminar, you have this threefold paradigm of ask, believe, and receive. So, ask is not necessarily so bad. We're supposed to ask God for things, right? After all, that's what we do during prayer, is we have requests. So that's okay, if done in the right way. And believe, we have to believe that our prayers are efficacious, right? But the receive part, you have to be careful about the receive part. And so he goes in explaining, you want to receive in the right way. For instance, right, you have a kid that's in a candy store. And the kid, wants everything, right? So if you tell him, well, if you really believe hard enough, if you ask for everything in the candy store and you believe hard enough, and you just close your eyes, you're going to get it, right? So we would say, well, that's probably not the best idea for him to get all of these candies. And not only that, but we very much care about our relationship with God, right? This direct relationship that we have with God. Very much the way that they explain it is very impersonal. Like one of the books. I did a lot of research for this. One of the books. You go to like a donut store, and you're going to the counter, and the guy doesn't care whether you're allergic, whether you're gluten-free, whether you keep kosher, whether you're on a diet or not. He's like, dude, there's people behind you. Like, which donuts do you want? Right? They're just like, they fulfill your order. That's the way they explain it. Is that the universe, this whatever nameless, faceless universe, is just fulfilling your order. You're just showing up to the counter and you're saying, this is what I would like to get today. And so that's not necessarily has anything to do with our purpose in this world, right? Not to say that there's anything against jelly donuts, but sometimes God says, well, I hear you, but I'm going to answer you in a different way. And maybe we're not going to necessarily see that way. But God is listening to us, and he's answering us, but not necessarily he's going to give us that donut, right? And another explanation, another example that they give is, let's say you want a luxury car. And so you have to act like you have that car, after all, right? You can't be, you have to manifest it, which means it's already here. You just have to open your eyes. You already have the car. So you go like to the dealership and you test drive the car, and you're showing the universe, see, look, I already have this car, And then one day, some way or another, you're going to get that car, right? So it's ridiculous, and it sounds ridiculous, and it should sound ridiculous, because when a person like really thinks about it, it's like, I'll give you another example. They say, well, you want to manifest. How much money do you want to manifest? $100,000? Okay. If you really believe that, you can get the $100,000. What about $1 million? Okay. If you really believe that, you can get $1 million. What about $1 billion? Where's the limiting factor over here? Like the kid in the candy store is like, the parents are like, no, you're not eating all the candy in the store. But for a grown adult, so supposedly they're supposed to, realize that they can't just get whatever they want. But that's really what's being promoted. And so this is the more or less the secular law of attraction. And so I was initially, when thinking to give this class, I prepared some material, and this is the second handout on the untold secret of the War of Gog and Magog. And I was thinking to start with that, because I prepared it, and this is kind of edited from actual material from the seminar. But then, a few days ago, Rabbi Ginsburg gave a fabulous class in Ra'anana on the 30th of Av, just over a week ago, in memory of the yortzeit of his first teacher, Rabbi Meir Isaacson, the Mavasar Tov. And Rabbi Ginsburg met him when he was, I believe, 15 years old in Northeast Philadelphia, and had a really profound influence on him. This was his first Torah teacher. And so this is what I would like to go into this handout first. Not necessarily into the whole class. I encourage you to read it after. It's a fabulous class. This is a transcript from Rabbi Gunuth, who this was posted on the Galanai, Rabbi Ginsburg's organization, on his Patreon page. So anyone who would like to join that Patreon afterwards, highly recommend that. But I would like to discuss specifically the parts of this class related to the law of attraction. And there's some really phenomenal parts. And I'm going to skip to the second page. So typically when we think of the law of attraction, we're like, well, what are you asking for? And mainly what people are asking for is wealth in these books. But there's these other categories as well. And this responsa from the Mavasar Tov, again, Rabbi Ginsburg's first teacher, talks about these three categories specifically as it relates to the upcoming holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So the first category is great wealth. The second is righteous children. And the third one is attaining the Holy Spirit. So no, actually, there's different ways to phrase this. In the Talmud, in Moed Katan 28a, Rava said that the categories are the length of life, which is also health, children, and livelihood. And so there's these different explanations, and Rabbi Ginsburg explains the different order, but we're not going to go into that tonight. Tonight we're going to specifically discuss that these are categories that people are asking for, right? We all, especially in our generation, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that a person can have all three revealed in our lives. So this is the meditation for tonight. How do we reveal all three in our lives? But in the right way, right? Not as they say. We want it to be as a result of our relationship with God. So the penultimate story in all of the Torah, and this is, Rabbi Ginsburg brings it also in his seminar and also here, is the story when King Solomon just became king, when he was 12 years old. And I'll read from Kings. This is Kings 1, chapter 3. And starting at verse 5, for anyone who would like to see later on. But this is exactly, and later on it says this was a dream, but God appears to him. He appears to Solomon, to this 12-year-old boy who just became king. He says, ask what I shall give you. Whatever you want, I'll give you. Right? The ultimate law of attraction story in the Torah is whatever you want. You want wealth? Sure. Fame? Whatever you want. And what does he respond? He responds that for an understanding heart to judge your people. So that seems to be a very nice response, but it's not only that. Because he responded in a way that it showed that he was only focused on caring and serving the people as king. So God responded, because you have asked this thing and have not asked for yourself, for long life, right, one of the categories, for riches, another category, I have done according to your word, right? I'm going to give you an understanding heart, not only an understanding heart, so that there is none like you before you, nor after you shall arise like you, right? King Solomon, right, who's the wisest of all men, right? So none before you like you, and none after you like you, in terms of this understanding heart. And not only that, not only will I give you what you requested in abundance, but I'll also give you riches and honor. Even though you didn't ask for it, I'm going to give it to you. So this is such a great example of what we mean. When God wants us to have all three, we have to know how to ask in the right way. Right? Okay, so back to the class. So we're still on the second page. So here's a meditation, how do we have these three categories, as Rabbi Ginsburg explains it, for these three categories of great wealth, righteous children, and attaining Ruach HaKodesh. Which, it's explained in the class how that corresponds to all three, but we're not going to go into that. So the first day of Rosh Hashanah is the day for praying for great wealth, the second day for righteous children, and the third, and Yom Kippur for Ruach HaKodesh, for Holy Spirit. So what does it mean, a Holy Spirit? It means knowing how to follow according to God's commandments naturally. It's also what we a lot of times call natural consciousness. We're naturally serving God. The way we say is correct. Actually, the story right afterwards with King Solomon is the story of the two harlots. They're fighting over that kid, and he says to cut it in half, and then the true mother says, no, give it to the other one, right? So having that wisdom to know how to act in every situation, that's what we mean. Is an understanding heart, which is there's some differences and distinctions between that and Ruach HaKodesh, but as Rabbi Ginsburg explains it here, it's a similar type of story that we're talking about. We want to know how to serve God. We want to know how to connect, and ultimately to find our purpose and point in this life. As we said, right? It could be that we should get all three categories, and that it will help us in our service of God. Right? Someone asked me some months ago, how would you sum it up, the Jewish approach to the law of attraction? And I said, having a laser focus on serving God. Right? If you have a nice house, it can be for classes, right? To raise a family, according to Jewish ideals. If you have money, to give a lot of tzedakah, a lot of charity. If you have fame, to spread the awareness of God in the world, right? As long as their focus remains on serving God. This was the topic of another class on spontaneous healing that I gave. And ultimately it's through healing your identity, which is very much like this, aligning your purpose and your mission in life with God's will. So it could very well be, and hopefully, that we're healed from whatever physically, like whatever we need to be healed from, that God heals us. But what's the focus? Is that I'm here for a purpose. So we have to clarify our purpose. And that I explained it there, that's scientifically that's been shown by this guy, Jeffrey Rediger, that's researched for 20 years. That's the main thing that he saw, is that when a person was able to clarify the reason why they're here, then they experience spontaneous healing. So this is fundamental. It's like the periphery is the reward, but the focus is what is my purpose and mission here on earth. So, in continuing with the Talmud from Moed Katan 28a, so Rava said the length of life, right, which is also health and also like a long life, righteous children and livelihood, do not depend on one's merit, but rather upon mazel. So we're going to go to the third page. Well, what is mazel? Well, maybe I can't change it. Whatever I'm born with, that's what it is. No, it's not like that. Here, if we learn according to the Baal Shem Tov, first of all, we have this statement from the Talmud in Shabbat 109a, is that ayin mazel Yisrael. That there is that mazel doesn't have constellations in the zodiac. The Jewish people don't need to think about that. Why? Because God lifted Abraham above the stars, above all of that. How does the Baal Shem Tov, right, the founder of the Hasidic movement, how does he interpret that? That the ayin, the divine nothingness that's constantly recreating reality, that, something from nothing, that is our mazel. Meaning the ability to continuously view reality as something that's always coming from nothing. Like we're not looking for anything. We're not. Every time we're surprised. I was watching a video from a class from Regensburg, and during the singing portion, people were lining up for blessings. And between every person, inevitably, he would go down and just contemplate back to what he was going to discuss, probably in the continuation of the class. But then someone new would come, and then someone new would come, and someone new would come. But he wasn't expecting the next person to come. That's how it was. It was a line. But between every person, he was like, it's a new reality. Every moment is a new reality. So that mindset is also the ability to bless. Because you're blessing someone with infinite potential and infinite possibility, not contingent on anything from a second ago, right? Not contingent on anything from the past. I also, this morning, there was a Chabad rabbi from Ashkelon, and also he had the same thing. Yeah, when I came up to give some tzedakah, he's like, "Oh, I'm surprised, right? I'm surprised that you're coming to give me, right? Even though he gave a speech, and even though that's why he was there." But not to expect anything, oh, someone's coming to give me. That's just such gratitude and such surprise. Like that type of mentality is the reality of at the level of continual recreation, which is one of the most fundamental and important concepts of the Baal Shem Tov. I wasn't going to discuss it, but another thing related to this is that they've studied blue zones. You know what a blue zone is? A blue zone. What's a blue zone?
If what I think is the same as yours, it's areas of the world where people have lived very long lives.
Right. It's a blue zone. And you know the strange thing about blue zones is that all the different cultures, all different parts of climates, different parts of the world, they're so different from each other. Different eating habits, different everything. The one thing that's similar in blue zones is that they have a healthy social life, where the people have a gathering places to get together. And what do you think? What do they talk about? I mean, they get together on a regular basis. It's not about trying to win someone else's opinion like they do, unfortunately, here in America a lot. It's just to enjoy the other person's company, right? And there's no expectations, and that's what we said here from Rabbi Ginsburg or this Rabbi in Ashkelon. You don't expect. You're enjoying the other person's company, right? And so that's the mindset at the level of continual recreation. Is that how can you expect anything? That reality has already passed. You're already in a new one. Everything is new. So if everything is really new, then you're just enjoying the present moment, with doing good, whatever, sharing it with others. Here we're in the final weeks of Shnas Hakel, the year of gathering, right? That the Baruch Rebbe emphasized very much. And so just to enjoy getting together, right? Whatever we get from this or not, but just the fact that we came together, and that's enough. And if we got something, that's also good. But it's just enough that we came together. Okay, so that's. Okay, so now. I'm going to skip to the second to the last page. And the paragraph, the head of nothingness.
When you say second last page, do you mean like the double-sided page?
The second to the last. The head of nothingness is the mazel. Okay. The head of nothingness is the mazel, and the great merit is the unknowable head of the crown when a Jew does something with great self-sacrifice. So this is the what it means to be a Jew is talked about in the seminar, and we're going to discuss in a little bit about that the mazel is opened through our forefathers, through Abraham, the first Jew, and through his self-sacrifice, but also this idea of connecting with our simple faith, the highest level of which is called the crown, or the superconscious in Kabbalah, which is when we say the model of ask, believe, and receive. So we're believing that God can give us beyond whatever mazel we may have. Why? Because we're connecting to the ayin, we're connecting to the nothingness of God, the God recreates reality at every moment, and there's only but God. That's the only reality is God. So that's just a little bit more about that. Also, so the task of our generation this is also in this paragraph, is about creating unifications. It's a very Kabbalistic term. It's called Avodas HaYuchudim, which could be like making matches for marriage, husband and with singles. In spiritually, or another way to approach it is, as explained in the Zohar, is that you have the higher waters of divine wisdom, which is the teachings of the Torah, and you have the lower waters, which is like the natural sciences or the mundane stuff. And you have to unify between the two. This is something that Rabbi Ginsburg has done for the past 40 plus years in what's called the Torah Academy, where you are connecting the dots. You're lining things up. So again, we want to have nice things. We want to have physically, we want to have all the blessings for children, health, and sustenance. But we have to know how to connect the dots. Right? Connect it to our service, to our purpose in this world, of why we're here. And ultimately, to see everything with this mindset of that it's a revelation of the oneness of God. So that is this class again that was given just over a week ago, and I encourage you to read it in your time. But the daily reading for the Tanya from yesterday is so fundamental, and so much, very much relates. And I almost want to say that this served the basis for Rabbi Ginsburg's seminar on the law of attraction. This is the 11th epistle. I didn't print this out, but I'm going to just read a little bit from it. So this is the beginning of the 11th epistle in the Igeret HaKodesh, in the holy letters from the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya. This is available on Chabad.org. And this is from the reading for Wednesday, the 6th of Elul. And it's just phenomenal how much it relates both to our topic and to the class from Rabbi Ginsburg that we just mentioned. So, to enlighten you with understanding that not by this path would the light of God dwell within one, that is, by desiring the life of flesh and children and sustenance. So, the Alter Rebbe is negating the desire, meaning viewing these things as ends. That's what we talked about. It has to be, our focus is on fulfilling our purpose, and that's the laser focus that we have. And these things are periphery, right? Like a tzaddik can have pleasure in these things, but because they're connecting that with God, that's a very high level. But initially we have to say that these are periphery, that we should get them, God willing, that God should bless us with all these things, but that our focus is on our service. For on this our sages of blessed memory said, nullify your will out of deference to his will. So this Rabbi Ginsburg brings in his seminar, and that's why I'm like, for sure, he's basing a large part of his seminar on this letter. This means that one should be so nullified that he has no desire whatever for any worldly matters. And this is incorporated in these three general categories. We said these are the three main categories of what a person would ask for: is children, life, and livelihood. And this is actually in the commentary in English, and this sums up our holy law of attraction. That these categories, or anything that a person could ask for, they should be desired not for themselves, but only insofar as they further their accomplishment of one's spiritual tasks. This is literally from the daily Tanya reading from yesterday, right? And this so encapsulates everything what it means that asking God to answer us. Well, is it furthering your spiritual tasks? Right? We have this relationship. It's not impersonal. God wants to answer us. He wants to give us all these blessings. It's just we have this one question that we need to answer. That's it. Then it goes on. Clarification of these matters. Again, viewing physicality in the proper way can be achieved only when there is absolute belief in Yotzer Breshit, the one who formed the first beings of creation, which also relates to the sphere of Chachma, which is to be nullified, to godliness, to God, to serving, to our mission, to our purpose in life. Actually, the main, we say a lot of times that to nullify, what does that mean? The main thing that we gain from this idea that Chachma, the wisdom, is related to the same letters as Koachma, the power of what? It's just related to Moses, is to step up. If we see something that someone's not going to do it, and we feel like we can do it, we feel like there's, the place where there's no man to be a man or woman, right? So we step up to the plate, right? Even if it's uncomfortable, beyond our comfort zone, whatever. We're stepping up to the plate, and so that's really what it means to nullify ourselves. To step up to the plate. Okay. This means that the creation of Yesh, that which exists, out of a state of Ayin, of nothingness, which is called Reshit Chachma, that occurs at every moment. That every moment is creation from nothing, from the divine wisdom, from God's wisdom. Every moment is creation from Ayin. So does this sound familiar? This is exactly what we were discussing, both from Rabbi Ginsburg's class, and this is all of the law of attraction can be encapsulated in this, is that as long as you don't expect, as long as you have this mindset of being grateful for whatever God gives you, and as long as you're connecting with your purpose, then yes, God willing, that you should have God should give you everything in a revealed way. And this is, I'm like 99.9% sure that Rabbi Ginsburg really, really had this in mind when he was formulating the material for the Law of Attraction seminar. Because it's talking about aligning with God's will. It's talking about aligning your will with God's will. This is from Pirkei Avos, Ethics of the Fathers. And about the ayin that's above mazel, that's above the, whatever is in your card, so to speak, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just connect, and you are just, you have this idea, you have this in mind, that God is continuously recreating reality, and that every moment is a new, filled with infinite potential. So back to Abraham and the great merit of Abraham. First of all, so now we'll go to the second handout. And initially, I was thinking to have this be the majority of the class, but this is actually the minority now. And God willing, there'll be future opportunities to continue this, because this is a series. You can't possibly give this over in one night. But so again, I thought this is going to fade out, this law of attraction thing. Who's going to be interested in this anymore? 2006? How many people remember what happened in 2006 in the modern world? It's like ancient, right? What iPhone version was that? So the reason why this is so prevalent and so just everywhere in this generation is because this relates to the final battle, the war of Gog and Magog. And I can't say this on my own. The only reason I can say this is because Rabbi Ginsburg says this. Okay, so if you go to the part 2, the second page of part 2, whose universe is this anyway? Right, we talked about this is we're not speaking to the universe. This is our relationship with God, praying to God. So the bottom of that second page, it's the land of attraction section. So the bottom says, so what is this war? This war of Gog from the land of Magog. Gog, Eretz, and Magog, right? This final epic war that's going to happen before Mashiach, before the redemption. So he says, it's the war of arrogance against humility. That the initials of Gog, Eretz, and Magog is Gimel, Aleph, Hey. It spells Geya, conceit and arrogance. You can't get more clear than this. The same thing with Amalek. This nation of Amalek. Is there some nation that we're going to fight? No, there's no nation anymore. The Baal Shem Tov says that Amalek is equal to Safek, is equal to doubt. It cools you off. It's a psychological warfare. Same thing here. There's a psychological warfare going on, and that's the main battle that's taking place today, especially in Western civilization. Is this battle of Gog, from the land of Magog. It's the battle of arrogance and conceit that tries to cover up over godliness. And where does that take place? It takes place in the epicenter. Where do you think? In Jerusalem. That's where it says this battle takes place, in the center. So when you see that Israel does a little something and it's in all the headlines, so where is that coming from? You have to understand this. But this is in all our lives, and also within ourselves. That we can't suffice it. Yachts and mansions, very nice, but we want it to come from the right place. We want it to come from our relationship with God. We don't want it to come from what's called tossed over the back of the shoulder, right? Scraps. We want it to come as a result of a blessing, right? This is so for the Jewish people, and also I think if we explain this to the nations of the world, they'll also say, "You're right." You're right. Why would I want those things if they don't mean that I'm actually fulfilling my purpose in this world? Because we all have our purpose, right? And again, it's the opposite of a life of asceticism, right? We're saying that God wants us to get all these things. So just before part 3, in the header is, whose universe is this anyway? As we mentioned, God says, I and he, the arrogant soul, cannot dwell together. Thus the battle that is being waged in the present is a war between two opposite worldviews. One that puts the person at the center of the universe, right? I'm such a great manifester. Look at all these things that all this wealth that I have, right? That's what they say. Look at all the things I've done because I've implemented this law of attraction. So they're at the center of their own universe. They're worshiping themselves. Or the one that puts God at the center. And where is the war being waged in Jerusalem, the physical center of the universe? So when we put God at the center, that's what we said. If we're really doing that, should we say Hashem L'nei Sami, we're always placing God before us in all of our actions, then we can have the nice house. We can have all the nice things, right? They say you can't have nice things because you mess it up, right? No, we can have nice things. We can have as long as we're keeping that focus. So, are there any questions? Yes?
Do you have to do the health, the children, and the wisdom in that order?
It's really any order. There's just different meditations and different ways to organize it, right? But really, a person should ask for what they are most heartfelt for that at that moment. And that, like I explained in the healing class, a person who was given the diagnosis, God forbid, a terminal illness. So that obviously is at their forefront, right? But it's an opportunity to connect. It's an opportunity to call out, to ask. So those things and to really find oneself and to rediscover oneself. So that's a person can look every moment can be different in terms of what we are asking for.
So why pray? Why need to pray if it's about alignment? It's about focus on your purpose. So well, Hashem should make it available to you whatever you need to fulfill your purpose. You know?
Prayer is the relationship.
Yes.
It's the relationship. It's the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a communication. It's not some faceless universe. We're especially now in the month of Elul, where it says the 13 attributes of mercy, of divine mercy, are revealed, and the parable that's brought by the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, the king is in the field, and he's greeting us with a sever panim nafos, a joyful countenance, and it's a relationship. We're his children, right? So if a parent who has a child who's not talking to him, it's very painful. Unfortunately, you have a lot of that these days. So imagine this is the pain of the Shekhinah, the divine indwelling presence, and God wants His relationship with us, with all of us. So we have to want to have that relationship. Rabbi Ginsburg talks about in another recent class. If we relate to God like mikra, like things are just random, happenstance, and that's how God reacts to us. He just reflects back. He's not doing anything. He's just reflecting back. So if we say, I'm trying to find what my purpose is, but I don't know. So that's the best place to be, because we're always in the state of I don't know, and that's what I explained in Kabbalah. That's the Ralba, the knowable head, which is the simple faith. Really, we never know, but at a certain we can say, well, is there an opportunity? What can I do today? And that's all that matters. Is just showing up.
No question. I heard something, I don't remember where I heard it, about Erev Rav, and the Erev Rav that left with us, and they left because they saw that we were getting all this wealth, but they didn't really want us when we were being, when it was hard on us. Made me think of the original narcissism. It's so. But are those Jewish people? Is there an answer to that?
In terms of what their status is, I'm not. It's above my pay grade.
Okay.
But in terms of seeing the external, we can understand very well what that means. What do the nations think about the Jewish people? That we have a lot of wealth and we're very successful. But we need to explain to them that there's a reason. That there's something to this, and you can also tap into it. It says if the nations of the world realized how the temple was benefiting them, they would have sent troops to defend it, right? So we need to explain that, and that's the job of a teacher. That's the job of the Jewish people, to be to be the teachers to the nations of the world.
Otherwise,
the light into the nations.
People feel jealous, they're like, oh, it's like anti-Semitism in a sense. Why do they have everything? So
it starts by us having the proper focus, not viewing these things as ends, right? And that's the first. That starts with us, and then we have the proper focus, and then we teach to them that everyone has a purpose, right? And so too, if your purpose needs you to be healthy and have your needs taken care of and so forth, then you should also get that. But it comes through connecting to the Jewish people. And so that's an important part of it, is that you can't just teach them the 7 laws of Noah. You need to say that this is coming from the Torah, coming from the teachings of the Jewish people. This is our. You have to. We're the teachers, and so that's where these blessings will come. This comes from God, but through connecting with the Jewish people. So someone who went to maybe even Sunday Dollars by the Barja Rebbe was able to see this in real time, thousands of times repeated. And anyone who tried to thank the Rebbe and say, thank you for this miracle that you did, the Rebbe said, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything. That's the idea, is that in whatever way possible to emulate that in our lives. Actually, the Jewish people are called a nation of tzaddikim. So this is the idea, is that it's given over to us. It's given over to us in each of our lives. And it could be not always that we feel this way, but it's whenever we have this awakening, we should not feel limited in any way. This is believing in tzaddikim, is believing that believing in the righteous, is believing that we can give over the teachings of the righteous as well, and not to have this self-doubt that who am I to give over to the words of Torah. So that's also an important thing. So just we talked about the great merit of Abraham. So just a little plug. That's one of the merits of Abraham, and this is from the second to the last page of the class in Manana, is that he gave charity, he gave tzedakah without calculation.
Who did?
Abraham. And that's the great merit that can change one's mazel. So we said that the standard thing is to connect to the ayin, to divine nothingness. But in terms of our actions, like we said, that God reflects back what we do. So if we are giving with an open hand, so God sees that and responds in kind. So specifically in this month of Elul and coming up to the high holy days, to give tzedakah in abundance. And so if I can make a birthday appeal to anyone who would like to give some tzedakah to Rabbi Ginsburg's organization Galanai, that the website is inner.org. Also to sign up for the Patreon page as well. But that's that would be something good birthday present. But in any event, so we should all have revealed blessings in all categories of anything that we need. So l'chaim, to a good and fulfilled new year, filled with all the blessings, and everyone can have in mind the things that they're asking, and then it should all be answered.
Amen.
Amen.